Okay, we are on to the 41st Sutra of the Light of the Soul, which is the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. Let's get started. Through purification comes also a quiet spirit, concentration, conquest of the organs, and ability to see the self. We should remember that both the commandments and the rules, yama and niyama, have to do with the lower fourfold self functioning in the three worlds and frequently called the lower quaternary. So we're looking at the fourfold self. 1, 2, 3 with the etheric body, right? So that's what the fourfold self in the lower three worlds would be. We have seen in the preceding sutra that the purification required is fourfold and concerns four vehicles, and that's true. We had just done that in the previous few sutras. The results of this purity are also fourfold and have reference equally to the four sheaths. These results are in order of the vehicles. One is conquest of the organs, and reference to the physical body, a quiet spirit, and deals on the emotional vehicle. Concentration has to do with the lower mind or the mental body, and the ability to see the self is the synthetic result of the triple condition of the above sheaths. The conquest of the organs has reference specially to the senses and is the result of magnetic purity or the refinement of the etheric body. In this connection, students should bear in mind that the physical body is not a principle, but is built in exact conformity with the etheric body. This etheric body is the magnetic vehicle on the physical plane and attracts those atoms and particles of substance out of which the dense physical is constructed. And it attracts them according to its own nature and constituents. When the sense perceptions are refined and when the vibratory condition of the vital body is justly attuned, the organs of the senses are entirely dominated and controlled by the real man and put him in contact eventually with the two highest subplanes of the physical plane. When the vibratory conditions of the vital body is justly attuned, the organs of the senses are entirely dominated and controlled by the real man and put him in contact eventually with the two highest subplanes of the physical plane and not with the lower astral, as is now the case. The correct order of this control of the organs of physical perception or of the five senses is as follows. This is very interesting here. One is the correct intellectual perception of the ideal on the mental plane. 2 is pure desire, freed from love of form on the emotional or astral plane. 3 is correct use and development of the 5 centers up the spine, the base of the spine, sacral center, solar plexus, heart, and throat centers, each of which is found in the etheric body and allied with one or other of the 5 senses. The consequent correct reaction of the sense organs to the requirements of the true or spiritual man. In connection with the astral body, the result of purification is a quiet spirit or the gentle stillness of the vehicles so that it can adequately reflect the Christ principle or the Buddhic nature. The relation of the astral or karmic principle using the middle vehicle of the threefold lower man to the Buddhic principle using the middle vehicle of the spiritual triad, Atma Buddhi Manas, Atma Buddhi Manas, should be carefully considered. The relation of the astral using the middle vehicle of the threefold lower man to the Buddhic principle using the middle vehicle of the spiritual triad. Okay, so what we're saying here is this is the lower man, this is the middle here, and then the Buddhic being the middle here, regarding sandwiched in between the spiritual and the mental. And this fourth, as we know, is the bridging. And it's not just bridging these here, it's also bridging the top three with the lower three. Quieted emotions and the control of the desire nature ever precede the reorientation of the lower. Before the desire of a man can be towards things spiritual, he has to cease to desire things of the world and of the flesh. This produces an interlude of great difficulty in the life of the neophyte, and the process is symbolized for us in the use of the word conversion in Orthodox Christian circles. It involves a turning round with its consequent temporary turmoil, but eventual quietness. In the mental body, the effect of purification is the development of the capacity to concentrate or to be one-pointed. The mind no longer flits hither or thither, but becomes controlled and quiescent and receptive to the higher impress. As this is discussed fully in Book 3, we need not deal further with it here. Oh, that's great. Look forward to that. When these three results of purification are making themselves felt in the life of the aspirant, he nears a certain climax, which is a sudden perception of the nature of the soul. He gets a vision of the reality, which is himself, and finds out the truth of the words of the Christ that the pure in heart shall see God. He beholds the soul, and henceforth his desire is for It's just like dust particles, very interesting. He beholds the soul, and henceforth his desire is forever towards reality and away from the unreal world of illusion. That's, you know, it's just say that that is, you know, that's an incredible thing that, you know, to see God. I'll just leave it at that. As a result of contentment, bliss is achieved. The 42nd Sutra. There is little to say in connection with the sutra except to point out that all pain, displeasure, and unhappiness are based upon rebellion, and that, from the point of view of the occultist, rebellion but stirs up increased trouble, and resistance only serves to feed the evil, whatever it may be. The man who has learned to accept his lot wastes no time in vain regrets, and his entire energy can then be given to the perfect fulfillment of his dharma or obligatory work. And yeah, there's you know, it's an interesting thing because I've mentioned this in the past, to somebody and they told me, yeah, well, that's just you. You're not going to turn back. And I don't see the need to look back. As a matter of fact, we should catch ourselves. If you can do that, you should catch yourself immediately and remember immediately that there is no could have, would have, or should have. That's not a thing. That's an illusion. It's an illusion. So the instant that that pops up is the instant that we don't go there anymore, because there's absolutely zero need to reflect on things that we had done in the past. We just become intelligent and move out intelligently and make, this is where this is now. It's now. There's no reason to go back if you can do that. I don't know. In my experience, when I hear people talking about, oh, I wish I could have done this or I should have done this, I kind of want to go, no. I don't even know. That doesn't make any sense to me anymore. But I don't do that. I listen and I try to say something that makes sense. But I don't get involved in those conversations, I'll tell you that. Instead of repining and clouding the issue of life with worry, doubt, and despair, he clarifies his path by the quiet realization of life as it is and a direct appreciation of what he may make of it. Thus, no strength, time, or opportunity is lost, and steady progress towards the goal is made. On to the 43rd Sutra. The fiery aspiration, through fiery aspiration and through the removal of all impurity comes the perfecting of the bodily powers of the senses. Though the two causes of the perfecting process are aspiration and purification, yet these two form really one and are the two aspects of the discipline of the probationary path. The old commentary, which forms the esoteric basis of the inner teaching on Raja Yoga, has some sentences which will be found of value here in conveying the correct concept. Now, I should note here, I don't believe this old commentary is mentioned throughout many of the books. I think I always thought it would be interesting to put all of them into one location, but this is not a book there's no book. This is not access to us. We don't have access to this on the physical plane, I don't believe either, outside of what is given by DK. So there's that. So it says, as the breath of fire streams upward through the system, as the fiery element makes its presence felt, that which is hindering is seen to disappear, and that which was obscure becomes illuminated. The fire ascends and barriers are burned. The breath expands and limitations disappear. The 7 hitherto quiescent stirrets of life, the 10 portals, sealed and closed or partially ajar, swing wide. The 5 great means of contact rush into activity. Obstacles are overcome and barriers no longer hinder. The purified one becomes the great receiver, and the one is known. In these words, the purification by fire and by air is dealt with, and this is the purification undergone on the path of yoga. Purification by water has been submitted to in the later stages of the life of the highly evolved man prior to the treading the path of discipleship, and is hinted at in the words waters of sorrow so often used. Now the fiery ordeal is undergone and the entire lower natures pass through the fire. This is the first meaning and the one with which the aspirant is most concerned. It is called forth when he can, from his heart, send forth the call for fire embodied in the words, I seek the way, I yearn to know, visions I see and fleeting deep impressions. Behind the portal on the other side lies that which I call home, for the circle hath been well nigh trod, and the end approacheth the beginning. I seek the way, all my feet have trod, all ways my feet have trod. The way of fire calls me with fierce appeal. Naught in me seeks the way of peace, naught in me yearns for earth. Let the fire rage, the flames devour, let all the dross be burnt, and let me enter through the gate and tread the way of fire. So then the question is, are we have we said this? How is this how we feel, right? And we know it's pretty deep, man, to make that kind of decision. And, not very many people have got to the point where they've made that. So, your experience on earth has reached an incredible point, we should say, right? When you hit that point and then progress from there, and that becomes your, that becomes where, that's where you take your stand. It's amazing. The breath of God is felt as the cleansing breeze. Also is the response of the soul to the aspiration of the disciple. The soul then inspires the lower man. The secondary meaning, of course, direct reference to the work of the Kundalini or serpent fire at the base of the spine as it responds to the soul vibration, felt in the head in the region of the pineal gland and called the light in the head. Mounting upward, it burns out all obstructions in the spinal etheric channel and vitalizes or electrifies the 5 centers up the spine and the 2 in the head. The vital airs within the ventricle of the head are also swept into activity and produce a cleansing or rather eliminating effect therein. With this, the student has as yet nothing to do beyond seeing to it that as far as in him lies, the aspiration of his heart is of the needed fiery character, and that the steady purification of his physical, emotional, and mental nature proceeds as desired. When this is the case, the response of the soul will be effective and the consequent reactions within the etheric centers will take place safely, under law, and normally. The 3 verses quoted above deal with the 7 centers hitherto quiescent, the 10 closed portals, the 10 orifices of the physical body, the 5 senses through which contact with the physical plane takes place, and in these terms, the entire outgoing and ingoing activities of the physical plane man are comprehended. When these have all been brought under the direction of the soul or the inner ruler, then unity with the soul is effected, and consequently identification with that one in whom we live and move and have our being. And consequently identification with that one in whom we live and move and have our being. I want to say that's the monad. Or our Father in heaven. Oh, let's go on to the 44th sutra here. Spiritual reading results in a contact with the soul, or the Divine One. So many names, right? It's beautiful. And how would you know if you didn't study these things, what reference has been made to all this time in the many books? That's the synthesizing that comes into play. Part of it. This might perhaps more literally be translated as the reading of symbols produces contact with the soul. A symbol is a form of some kind which veils or hides a thought, an idea, or a truth, and it might be laid down, therefore, as a general axiom that every form of every kind is a symbol or the objective veil of a thought. This, when applied, will be found to refer equally to a human form, which is intended to be the symbol or made in the image of God. It is an objective form veiling a divine thought, idea, or truth, the tangible manifestation of a divine concept. The goal of evolution is to bring to perfection this objective symbolic form. When a man knows that, he ceases to identify himself with the symbol, which is his lower nature. He begins to function consciously as the divine inner subjective self, using the lower man to veil and hide his form and daily dealing with that form so that it is molded and wrought into an adequate instrument of expression. Those are very deep words right there. The idea is also carried forward into the daily life and in the attitude of the man to every form in the three kingdoms of nature he contacts. He seeks to see below the surface and to touch the divine idea. All right, let's do this. Let's just look at this again. He begins to function consciously as the divine inner subjective self, using the lower man to veil and hide his form, and daily dealing with that form, so that it is molded and wrought into an adequate instrument of expression for the divine inner subjective self. It's just amazing stuff. This is the fourth of the rules and concerns the man's inner attitude to the objective universe. It might be said, therefore, that the rules concern a man's attitude towards his own lower nature, internal and external purification, his karma or lot in life, contentment, his soul or ego, fiery aspiration, environment and physical plane contacts, spiritual reading, and the one existence, God, devotion to Ishvara. Thus, a right attitude to all things covers this set of rules. And this is where, and this is what we just hit here, right? So, spiritual reading, environment, and physical plane contacts. And this is what we kind of just discussed here. And then, well, we're going to have to continue to 45. We have to finish this out because 5 here is the one existence, God, devotion to Ishvara. And the 45th sutra goes, through devotion to Ishvara, the goal of meditation or samadhi is reached. The goal of meditation is ability to contact a divine inner self, and through the contact to come to a realization of the unity of that self with all selves and all self, and this not just theoretically, but as a fact in nature. This comes about when a state called samadhi is achieved, wherein the consciousness of the thinker is transferred out of the lower brain consciousness into that of the spiritual man or soul on its own plane. The stages of this transfer might be stated to be as follows. 1, transfer of the consciousness of the body the outgoing instinctual consciousness of the physical man into the head. This necessitates a conscious withdrawal of the consciousness to a point within the brain in the neighborhood of the pineal gland and its conscious, definite, centered there. And its conscious, definite, centered there. I might be reading that wrong. Within the brain in the neighborhood of the pineal gland and its conscious, definite, centered, centering there. Okay, I'm sorry, I was reading it wrong. I don't know how I missed that. And its conscious, definite centering there. To transfer of the consciousness out of the head or the brain into the mind or mental body. In this transfer, the brain remains keenly alert, and the withdrawal is consciously undertaken via the etheric body using the Brahmarandra, or opening at the top of the head. At no point is the man in trance, unconscious, or asleep. He actively undertakes and carries forward this abstracting or withdrawing process. Then he transfers, then there is a transfer of consciousness from out of the mental body into that of the ego, the soul, lodged in the causal body of or egoic lotus. Which is here on the third, for now, on the third plane of the mental plane. So really, we're just moving on up, right? We're bringing our consciousness up as high as we can, up into the mental body, the mental unit, and then out into the formless, you could say. Lodged in the cosmos. There is then brought about a condition in which the brain, the mental body, and egoic body form a coherent, quiescent unit, alive, alert, positive, and steady. The state of samadhi or spiritual contemplation can then be entered when the soul looks out upon its own world, sees the vision of things as they are, contacts reality, and knows God. Following upon this comes the stage in which the spiritual man transmits to the brain via the mind that which is visioned, seen, contacted, and known. And in this way, the knowledge becomes part of the brain contents and is available for use upon the physical plane. This is the goal of the meditation process, and the results, and their many distinctions, are the subject of Book 3 and are produced by conformity to the 8 means of yoga dealt with in Book 2. Only devotion to Ishvara, or true love of God, with its accompanying qualities of service, love of man, and patient endurance and well-doing, will carry a man along this arduous path of discipline, purification, and hard work. And without any of those, we're lacking, and this process is not happening, which makes this very interesting. Because I have a feeling, this is just, I have a feeling this book is on many shelves and has absolutely no recognition of what is actually being said. And DK, very thankful that he brings this together for us. This is so huge. So we're able to understand so much more, pulling all of this together. Because I don't know that this is a heavily read book so much and in the blue books. I don't know. It's not like it's not part of the treatise on the 7 rays. I don't know, but I'm very thankful that we were led to read, to get into this. So then we have next, we're moving on to posture. And I assume that means asana as well, right? But we will get back on that tomorrow. So we'll pick this up and move out. On this tomorrow. All right, great. Have a great Sunday. If it's Sunday, which is probably not, but have a great day. All right, see you soon.